Great. Good to see you back for our weekly Saturday morning practice. It's nice to have a little bit of a ritual, even if I'm mostly just talking to myself. I'd like to work a little bit today on the kind of typical areas that become problematic when we do a lot of sitting, which I expect that maybe people have been doing as much or even more than they usually do. So those areas are typically the shoulders in this kind of rounded forward position, maybe some tension in the neck. And what we're seeing is a combination of weakness and stiffness when we have an area of the body that's in the same sort of inactive held position for a long time. And then the same thing in the hips, especially in the hip flexors and the glutes. We have both weakness and stiffness because the chair that we sit in is supporting the shape. So we're not doing any work to hold that shape. We can also look a little bit at the core and the spinal extensors to see if we can get a little bit more of an upright position in the torso. What's interesting to me though is that we can use yoga as a way to balance out doing a lot of sitting. But the purpose of yoga is actually to prepare the body for sitting. So it's a funny little irony that actually the purpose of all of our movement practices is so that the body is ready to sit in meditation for a very long time. So we'll maybe see at the end that what we arrive at is feeling good about doing a lot of sitting. We'll see where we go. We're going to start lying on the back, and you can just find a comfortable way to lie down. You might like to have your legs straight out, or you can have the knees bent, soles of the feet to the floor if that feels better, especially if you feel any discomfort in your low back. And we'll just take a few moments here, seeing you can let the body get nice and heavy. Starting by undoing, so noticing if there's a sort of habitual pattern of tension, of holding in your body that you might let go of so that we're more ready for exploration. And begin to connect with your breathing. So you're noticing the path of the breath in the nose, in the throat, feeling the chest, feeling the belly. And as you're exhaling, belly drops in as an automatic response to your breath. Shoulders might get a little heavier, the head nice and heavy. Just continuing to pay attention to that path of your breathing, this broadening, widening, lifting quality as we inhale. And then the settling that happens on the exhale. Maybe especially here in our process of undoing, being mindful of how muscles in the neck might let go so the head can be especially heavy. We can feel with the inhale that the shoulder blades broaden on the back, so there's a little bit of space between the shoulder blades. But as we exhale, the heads of the shoulders or the arm bone itself might settle down a little bit, so some of that rounding forward can release and we bring the arm bones more in line with the torso. And then we'll also start to explore some stability in the core. So as you inhale, breathing into that base of your pelvis, feeling the widening quality across the low belly. And then as you exhale, you can start to draw the low belly in. So again, there's that automatic response of the belly dropping in, but we can enhance that automatic response, a little bit more effort of hugging in the lowest area of your core. So that the exhales give us both a sense of centering and softening at the same time. Okay, and then from here we'll pull the right knee into the chest and just loop your hands around your right shin. Taking a few breaths here, you might straighten your left leg out forward if it's not there already, breathing into the length of your left leg as you inhale, and then feeling that swoop in the low belly and folding into the hip crease on the right side as you exhale. So not so much pulling with your arms, keeping those shoulders nice and soft, and just feeling how your breath and the core work together. So that each time you exhale, you feel that hugging in of the low belly. You can also feel how you're able to gently activate your hip flexors on the right side to bring that right thigh a little bit closer in. Good, and then we'll move into a half happy baby. So you can take your left hand onto your left hip, and holding that hip in place. Bring the right arm to the inside of your right leg, and then hold the outside of your right foot. And we'll just slowly start to float the right heel away from the right hip. If the foot is a little bit too far away for you to reach, then bringing your right hand to your right shin is also perfectly good. And so now feeling the breath in the length of your left leg as you inhale, seeing if you can still float that right heel away from your right hip. As you exhale, keeping the shoulders nice and relaxed, hugging in through the low belly. Maybe you can fold a little bit more at that right hip crease to settle the right thigh bone down. What we might feel here in terms of sensation is the little bit of space in the front of the left hip crease, and then perhaps a stretch in the right hamstring. So both areas that get tight from too much sitting in a chair. And working more with your breathing, less with your arms. So you can really feel how the breath allows you to sculpt the body specifically in this shape. Okay. We'll bring the right knee back towards center. Now looping your hands around the back of your right thigh. You start to bring your right leg up towards the ceiling. So you're stretching up through the back of the leg, breathing into the hamstring, into the calf. Using your exhales to guide that right thigh bone down into the hip socket, so you can really feel how the hip is a connected piece, the thigh bone really sitting heavily into the space of the torso. And each time you inhale, maybe finding a little bit more space up the back of your right leg without pushing the leg out of the hip socket. And then maybe as you're exhaling and scooping the belly in, you find that you're able to start to fold that right leg closer in towards you without increasing the bend in the knee. Maybe here you'd like to slide your hands a little bit higher up your right leg, so more up towards the calf if that feels available. Again, just keeping the shoulders nice and relaxed, enjoying that stretch through the back of the right leg, not forgetting about your left leg. Your left leg can also stay long and active. Good, and then we'll bend the right knee. Now taking your left hand to your right knee, rolling onto your left side, moving into a gentle twist. The right arm can reach out to the right. And you're seeing if you can turn the hips away from the ribs, breathing into the length of your right side body, settling the right shoulder heavily into the floor. And if you want to experience a little bit more sensation across the outer right thigh, you might see if you can just shift your right hip away from your right shoulder. So a feeling of lengthening out the right side body. And then from there, easing a little bit more into the twist. So it becomes not just a twist, but also a little bit of a hip stretch. Great, and then we'll come back to center and do all of that on the other side. So right leg forward, drawing your left knee into your chest, looping your hands around your left shin. Just a few slow, steady breaths here. The inhales, moving into the ball of the right foot. Exhale, scoop the low belly in so that you can fold more at your left hip crease. And just feeling how the breath and the core work in tandem so that we can feel just a little bit of activation of the left hip flexors. Shoulders as relaxed, as soft as possible. Maybe paying some attention to letting go again in the neck so that the head is still really heavy. And then finding that half happy baby, right hand to your right hip to hold the hip in place, left arm to the inside of your left leg, and then reaching for the outer left foot or maybe your left shin if that's what feels available. Floating the left heel away from the left hip, settling the left thigh bone down beside your torso without tipping your weight to your right. So you can really use that, use that right hand to hold the right hip down so the weight keeps even across your hips. As you're floating your left heel away from your left hip, finding more of the sensation in your left hamstring or maybe across the front of the right hip crease. Breathing into whatever it is that you feel. Seeing if you can give it more space, more softness. Really letting the shoulders relax here, letting the head stay nice and heavy. And we'll fold the leg back in towards center, looping your hands around the back of your thigh, and then straightening that left leg up towards the ceiling. Breathing up the back of the leg. As you exhale, you settle the left thigh bone into the left hip socket. You might even use the weight of your hands to kind of drop that thigh bone heavy into the floor. Your exhale is hugging the low belly in, which maybe allows you to fold the left leg closer towards you. So experiencing more of a stretching sensation up the back of the leg. Again, keeping the leg as long as possible. So not increasing the bend in the knee. Also feeling the activity in your right leg, breathing into the length of your right foot. Shoulders, head relaxed. And maybe sliding your hands a little bit higher up the leg if that felt useful or available to you. And without hunching up your shoulders. Bending your left knee, right hand to the left knee, rolling to your right side, moving into your twist. Left arm reaching out to the left. And seeing if you can peel your low back away from the floor as you settle your upper back heavily into the floor. And if you want to add that experience of just exploring a little bit more into the hips, see if you can send your outer left hip away from your left shoulder. You can even imagine that somebody is just gently tugging back on that left thigh bone away from the shoulders to create more length in the left side body, which gets us into the chain of muscles that wrap around the outer hip and into the outer left thigh. And then we'll come back to center. And then from here, with your feet to the floor, you inhale to reach your arms up alongside your ears, nice full stretch. Exhaling to roll onto your right side body. Left hand to the floor to gently press yourself up to a seat. We'll arrive in a cross-legged seat for a moment. Just seeing if we can find some space in the shoulders here. So sitting up nice and tall, you can bring your hands to the tops of the thighs, palms facing down. We'll start to roll through the shoulders. As you inhale, the shoulders go forward and up towards the ears. And then exhaling to move down and back. Inhaling and the shoulders rolling forward and up. Exhaling down and back. So a few more times, your own slow pace. Feeling this broadening of the shoulder blades on the back body as you inhale. And then the widening of the collarbones as you exhale. And seeing if we can find more of a quality of glide. So the shoulder, or the upper arm bone rather, moves really smoothly through the shoulder socket. And then we also feel how the shoulder blades and the collarbones move smoothly across the body as we transition through these circles. Good. And then we'll switch directions. So the palms face up, inhaling to sweep your shoulders back and up towards your ears, wide space across the chest. And then as you exhale, melting the shoulders forward and down, broadening the upper back. And just do that a few more times. Again, following your own sweet rhythm of breathing. Seeing if we can find a more fluid transition through this whole range of motion. So if you notice any area that feels a little bit sticky or kind of snags as you go through it, then maybe go especially slowly, especially carefully through that particular area. And then we'll just set the shoulders wide on the body. So the heads of the shoulders reaching out, space in your chest, space in your upper back. With your next inhale, you can reach your arms up, stretching up through the fingers. And then we're gonna exhale to bring the hands behind the back, interlace your fingers. Take both of your hands to your right side. So your left hand just kind of tucks into the curve of the right side waist. Squeeze your elbows towards each other. Draw this front rib slightly in so we're not puffing out the ribs. See if you can lift your rib cage straight up out of your hips. And then from here, we'll slowly start to lean the right ear towards the right shoulder. So you're leaning away from that left arm that's looped around behind your back. And just finding some space in the left side of the neck. Few steady breaths here. And seeing if you can guide your breath specifically into any area that feels a little bit sticky or where the strongest tug of this stretch is. So that the breath gives exactly that space a little bit more room. A little bit more softness. And then we'll turn the face slightly towards the floor, so the stretch shifts just a little bit more towards the back left side of the neck. You're still leaning towards your right shoulder, still letting the right shoulder settle, squeezing that right elbow in towards the left. Good, and then we'll slowly bring the head back up to center, releasing the arms again. Inhale to sweep your arms up, keeping the shoulders soft. Exhale, the hands behind the back, interlacing the fingers. Both hands now to the left side, so that right hand tucks into the left side waist. Squeeze the elbows in towards each other. Front ribs knit just slightly in, lift the ribs, and then slowly lean your left ear towards your left shoulder so that we feel the tug from the right arm looping around behind the back up into the right side of the neck. And noticing exactly how specifically you can use your breath to change your experience of this shape or navigate your experience of the shape. So maybe we don't get any kind of increased flexibility, or we don't really change the body in a physical way that's noticeable from the outside. But via the breathing, we can feel that the shape is different, that our response to the shape is different. Again, we'll slowly just shift the face slightly towards the floor so that the stretch creeps around towards the back right side of the neck. And then bringing the head back up to center, releasing the hands again. Inhale to reach your arms up nice and tall. Exhale to bring your hands down to the floor in front of you. Walk the hands into a gentle forward fold. Just a few minutes here. A few minutes, no. A few breaths here. Minutes are long. Seeing if we can send the sits bones back, reach the ribs forward. Breathing into the space of the low back, so really stretching out that area of the low spine. And then as you exhale, feeling the scoop in the low belly that allows you to increase the fold at the hips so that we might settle a bit more comfortably into the shape. And again, it doesn't have to be a really deep shape. And as we're breathing, we don't have to notice any change from the outside, but we can feel that each cycle of breath gives us maybe a little bit of a softer response to some of the tensions, allows us to melt something out of the body, allows us to loosen or untangle some knot that we've discovered, so we feel different in the shape internally. And then we'll walk the hands back in. From here, finding your way to all fours and just arriving however you like to get there. Knees under your hips, wrists under your shoulders, the fingers spread comfortably wide apart. See if you can spin a little bit more weight towards the inner edge of your hand by wrapping your lower arm slightly inwards. And then roll your upper arms outwards. You can think of kind of like a spiral shape in the arm. Lower arm rolling inwards, upper arm rolling outwards so that the shoulders stay wide away from the ears. Lots of space around your neck. Kind of wider space in your upper back as you press down through the hands so the shoulder blades are not collapsing in towards each other. And then we'll move through a few rounds of cat and cow as you're inhaling, lengthening the belly, reaching the ribs forward, lifting the chest, lifting your gaze. Exhale to round the back, pressing down through the hands, hugging in through the belly. And inhale again to lengthen the top layers of your core, kind of drag your hands against the mat towards you to pull the heart really far forward. And then exhale to press down through the hands, ballooning through the back body. Let the head drop heavy, the back of the neck long. Just one more round, inhaling to stretch the ribs forward, lengthening out the belly. See if you can press your knees outwards to spread the sits bones wider. And then as you exhale, tailbone reaching down, belly draws in, rounding through the whole back body. Let the head drop heavy. Good, inhale to come back to a neutral shape in the spine. And then from here, we'll walk the hands forward, keeping the hips aligned above your knees, and slowly let your forehead settle down towards the floor. You can either stay as you are here, or if you have a little bit more ability in the upper back and the neck, you might instead choose to place the chin to the floor and start to let the chest drop down, so whatever edge works best for you. See if you can still root through the inner edges of your hands, but spiral your upper arm bones outwards so that we get that same quality of space around the neck and a sort of broadness in the upper back. So there's room for your breath between your shoulder blades. Each time you exhale, let the ribs settle a little bit more, sort of softening through the upper back. And then we'll inhale to walk the hands back in, again coming to all fours. From here, tucking your toes under as you exhale, you take your hips up and back, moving into downward dog. A slightly different set of sensations here. So same quality in the arms. We're seeing if we can spiral the weight towards the inner edge of the hand and then roll the upper arm bones outwards away from the ears so the shoulder blades are wide on the back, lots of space around the neck. But now not letting your ribs sag, seeing instead if you can gently knit the front ribs together, breathe into that wider space of your upper back, and then push down through your hands to send your hips up really, really high so that this lower part of your torso is as long as possible. And then with the hips reaching up high away from the floor, see if you can settle your heels down away from your sits bones, a little bit more room through the backs of the legs. And from here, we're going to inhale to ripple forward into plank, so rounding through the upper back as you bring your shoulders over your wrists, or maybe even forward of your wrists. And then moving through your own flow, you might exhale to lower all the way down, maybe knees first, maybe one straight line, or chaturanga. We'll inhale to cobra or upward dog. And then we'll exhale to take the hips up and back, moving into downward dog. And as always, if that set of options that I've just offered isn't what you need, then do whatever it is that you need. Everything is allowed. Okay. So just take another set of breaths here, lifting the hips up high as you inhale, stretching out through the center body, keeping the hips reaching up, seeing if you can stretch the heels down as you exhale for space in the backs of the legs. And then just moving through another fluid vinyasa. As you inhale and ripple forward into plank, hugging in the belly, rounding through the upper back, exhaling, lowering your way down. If you're coming into chaturanga, seeing if you can really keep your elbows aligned over your wrists, heart going forward. We're inhaling to come to cobra or upward dog. Exhale to take the hips up and back, moving into downward dog. And then from here, walking your feet slowly forward towards your hands and arrive at a comfortable forward fold. And inhale to come halfway up, reaching the ribs forward. Exhale, again, scooping in the low belly so you can increase the fold at the hips as you settle back down. Inhale again, halfway up, the ribs reaching forward. Exhale to empty and sink back down. And one more time, inhaling halfway up, nice long space in the spine. And exhaling to empty the belly, settling back into your fold. Good. Keeping a little bit of bend in the knees. As you inhale, you start to roll up to standing. So we'll keep the arms ahead nice and heavy as you're coming up, bone by bone. Eventually arriving in a nice tall stance. You can reach down through the tailbone, hug in through the belly, lift the ribs. Again, spreading the shoulders out nice and wide. Tall reach through the crown of the head. We'll inhale to sweep the arms up, nice full stretch. Exhale, folding forward, bringing the hands towards the floor. Inhale, halfway up, reach the ribs forward. Exhaling to soften, stepping your right foot back. We'll place the right knee down to the floor. You can fold up your mat or find padding if you want it, and stay here for a few moments. As you inhale, you reach your arms up to come into a low lunge. See if you can let the hips really settle. But then start to look for a connection to your center line. First by hugging your left heel, your right knee towards each other, drawing your inner thighs in towards center, and then using that hug to activate through the deeper core, and start to draw in through the low belly, lifting your low belly away from your left thigh and growing up tall through your ribs. Still letting the hips sink, especially as you exhale, also paying attention to softness in the shoulders, but using the hug towards center to carry you up a little bit higher through the ribs each time you inhale, so that we get maybe more of a sensation of stretch through the front right hip crease. And let's take one more big full breath in here. And then exhale to bring the hands back down to the floor. Straightening the right leg, press the mat away from you. Pick up your left foot. See if you can really feel how the hip flex of the core work together to pick up the foot first, and then as quietly as you're able, stepping back to plank. Moving again with your own path to downward dog, and simply follow your own rhythm of breathing. And then we'll inhale to reach the right leg up and back. And exhaling to draw the right knee in towards the center of the chest. Bring your shoulders as far forward as you're able. Inhale to reach the right leg up and back. Exhale, take the knee to your upper right arm. Maybe you can kind of tuck it right up in towards your armpit. Inhaling to reach up and back. And we'll exhale to bring the knee to the upper left arm, the shoulders coming forward. Really squeeze the thigh up towards you. Keep your hips level. Inhale to reach up and back. Exhale, drawing the knee into the center of the chest, and carefully step your right foot forward towards your hands. We'll bring the left knee down towards the floor, and inhale to sweep the arms up into your low lunge. So again, letting the hips settle. And then looking for that sense of hug. The right heel, left knee moving in towards each other, the inner thighs magnetizing in towards each other, which leads us to the pelvic floor, drawing from that lowest pit of your belly in and up through the center of your torso to carry the ribs away from your hips. And the more we can kind of stretch out that center space of the body, so hips lowering, the ribs lifting, the more we'll feel the pull through the left hip crease to open up those hip flexors. And just really making sure we're not sagging the belly towards the right thigh, so your torso is really centered back over your hips, tailbone reaching down, ribs go straight up out of the hips. And exhaling to bring the hands back towards the floor. From here, we'll step the left foot forward to meet the right. Inhaling to come halfway up. Exhale, empty and sink back down. Pressing into the feet, inhale, arms coming all the way up, reaching tall. Exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. And then we'll inhale to reach the arms up, nice full stretch. Exhaling to fold, hands towards the floor. Inhale, halfway up, ribs reaching forward. Exhale, softening down, stepping your left foot back. And inhaling to come up into a high lunge. And arms reaching up alongside the ears. And to make sure that the shoulders are comfortable here, see if you can again spiral your upper arm bones away from your ears. So in this case, we might turn the pinky finger slightly in to help us feel that turning of the upper arms outwards. Shoulders nice and soft. And then to explore the hips a little bit here, maybe we're gonna bend the left knee just a little bit and see if that gives you more space to reach your tailbone down towards the floor. So we're tipping the hips to pull the belly away from the right thigh. And then with that shape still as it is, see if you can stretch your left leg out a little bit longer, still hugging the belly away from the right thigh, going straight up through your ribs. And then we'll exhale the hands back to the floor. Again, seeing if you can really press down through the hands, puff up the upper back, use your core and your hip flexors to pick your right foot up, and then really quietly stepping it back to plank and moving again through your own vinyasa, allowing your own breath to guide you back to downward dog. We'll inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale the knee into the chest, the shoulders again as far forward as you're able. Inhale to reach up and back. Exhale, drawing the knee towards your upper left arm, leaning forward into your hands. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, the knee across the chest towards your upper right arm, keeping the hips lifted. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee into the chest, stepping your left foot carefully towards your hands. Inhaling to come up, high lunge. Again, setting the shoulders comfortably away from the ears, so pinky fingers might turn slightly in as the thumbs turn out. Upper arm bones roll outwards, away from the ears. You're going to feel like you can really stretch your arms up tall, but still plug that arm bone into the shoulder socket. So there's a connection at the shoulder. And maybe bending your right knee here for a moment, seeing if that helps you to reach your tailbone down. Pull the belly away from the left thigh, set the torso more over your hips, grow up taller through your ribs, and then see if you can straighten out that right leg without tipping your belly forward again. So you're still really centered back over the hips. The hips can sink maybe a little bit lower. The ribs can grow up taller. And then we'll exhale to bring the hands down to the floor, step the right foot forward to meet the left. Inhaling halfway up. And exhaling to sink back down. Pressing into the feet, inhale all the way up to standing, reaching tall. And then exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. Good, you might step your feet a little bit closer together here. We'll come into diver's pose, so we're gonna lift the heels high away from the floor, and right up on the balls of your feet, and then hinging at the hips to reach your torso level to the floor as you stretch back through your fingertips. So see if you can really bring the upper body parallel to the floor. Stay high up on the balls of the feet. Zip up that inner line of your legs. Send your hips back. Reach your heart forward. Feel if you can stretch out the center of the body. And we'll feel here that the lower back muscles are working to keep the chest, the weight of the ribs lifted. We can use some deeper muscles in the core to help reach the ribs away from the hips. So again, that hugging in through the lowest part of your belly. Lots of effort in the legs to lift the heels and send the hips up high. Yeah, and then we'll sink the heels, sit the hips low, sweep the arms up alongside your ears, coming into Utkatasana, fierce pose, or also known as chair pose, which is actually maybe a little bit silly because it's the pose without the chair. So we want to notice how much work we can do to hold this shape in the body without having a support there to do the work for us. You can feel the work in your quads, maybe in your hamstrings too, just to get that good bend in your knees. The outer hips working, the low belly hugging in to keep the ribs growing away from the hips. And with all of that work, see if you can still relax your face. Yeah. And then we'll exhale to straighten up the legs as you bring your hands towards the floor. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, planting your hands, stepping or hopping back, finding your own path again to downward dog, following your own rhythm of breathing. Inhaling to reach the right leg up and back. I'm going to exhale, knee to chest, bring the shoulders forward. Inhaling up and back. Exhale the knee to the upper right arm, shoulders forward. Inhaling to reach up and back. Exhale the knee to the upper left arm and really lifting the thigh towards you. Keep the hip square. Inhale, reach up and back. Exhale the knee back to the center of the chest. Careful, step forward, the right foot towards your hands. And then spinning the left heel down, so the foot flat to the floor. We'll inhale to come up to warrior one. And you're seeing if we can find a relatively square shape in the hips here. So you might widen your stance a little bit so that you can really spiral that left thigh forward as the right sits bone draws back. Again, hug the belly away from your right thigh until you feel a good sense of a stretch in the left hip crease. And then we'll bring the arms forward, cross your left arm over your right, bending the elbows, palms come together, spread the shoulders out nice and wide. Stay low through your hips. As you inhaling, lift your elbows, lift your fingertips, keep the shoulders spreading wide, and just gently start to tip the ribs back into a little bit of back bend. And then we'll exhale to round into center. So elbows hugging in towards the navel, let the head drop heavy into your chest. Stay low through the hips. Inhale again to grow up through your ribs. Lift your elbows, lift your fingertips, gently leaning back. Exhaling to round back into center. And once more, stay low through the hips, inhaling to find length in the belly. Lift the heart, lift your elbows, gently tipping the ribcage back. And exhale to curl back in towards your own center point. And we'll inhale to come back up so the elbows are as high as the shoulders. Exhale to unwind the arms into warrior two. Stay nice and low through the hips. Make sure your right knee, right toes are pointing in the same direction. So we can kind of feel a little bit of an external rotation in the right thigh, like the right thigh bone just gently rolling outwards so we can wrap the right hip more under the body. And then from here, we'll bring the left hand down behind the back. Look for something on your right side. Maybe you can creep your left fingers in towards your right hip crease. Inhaling here to a reverse warrior shape. So the right side body long, right arm reaching alongside your right ear. And then we'll exhale either to bring the right forearm to the right thigh, or maybe the right hand to the floor, whatever works for you. Keeping that left hand tucked in where it is. And then seeing maybe if you can roll your left side ribs open so that we can snuggle the left fingers even a little bit more towards the right hip crease or perhaps the inner line of the right leg. Look for length here in your belly, length in your left side body, and really wrapping that right hip under the body as the left side ribs roll open. Good. And then keeping everything else that is just releasing that left arm so that you can take your left arm alongside your left ear and stretch out through the left side body all the way through to the left fingertips. And we'll press down through the feet. Inhale back to reverse warrior, long space in your right side. Exhale, windmilling the hands down to the floor. Careful step back to plank, moving with your own breath, finding your path to downward dog. We'll inhale to reach the right leg up and back. Exhale, knee into the center of the chest. Inhale, up and back. Oh, sorry, put your right foot back down. We already did that side. From downward dog, inhaling to reach your left leg up and back. Exhale, knee into the chest, leaning forward into the hands. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper left arm, shoulders forward. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper right arm, shoulders leaning forward. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee back to the center of the chest, stepping your left foot towards your hands. And then spinning that right heel down so the sole of the foot reaches, arms sweeping up into warrior one. And looking for relatively square hips. So we feel that we can spiral the right thigh forward without any strain in the right knee. Sending the left hip back, lifting the belly away from the left thigh. Grow a little bit taller up through your ribs. And then bringing your arms forward, crossing the right arm over the left, bending the elbows, and palms together, backs of the hands together. Hands to your shoulders, also an option. Seeing if we can send the forearms away from the torso so there's a wider space in the upper back. Keep the heads of the shoulders moving outwards. Stay low through your hips as you inhale, lifting your elbows, lifting your fingers, lengthening up through the belly, gently tipping back through the ribs. Exhaling to round into center. Belly hugs in as the elbows meet the navel. Inhale, stay low through your hips, growing up into your back bend. Lift the heart. Keep that sense of going up as you lean back. And then exhale to round again into your own center. One more time, staying low through the hips. Inhale to grow up tall through your torso. Elbows up, fingers up, gently leaning back. And exhale to round back into center. And we'll inhale to come back up to something like neutral, and then exhale to unwind the arms. Moving into warrior two, adjusting the feet as you need to, so we have a wide space across the front of the pelvis. Left knee, left toes pointing in the same direction. A little bit of a feeling of rolling your left thigh bone slightly outwards to wrap the hip under the body. Right hand down behind your back, reaching for something on your left side. And then we'll inhale to reverse, the left arm sweeping alongside the left ear. Exhale, the left forearm to the left thigh, or the left hand down towards the floor. And then from here, seeing again if you can hug that left hip into the midline, roll your right side ribs open, and maybe you have some space to creep those right fingers a little bit more into the hip crease, more in towards the inner thigh. And then still lengthening out through the belly here, lengthening out through your right side body. So seeing, even if you feel like you've tied yourself into a little bit of a bow, if you can look for more space or more elegance in that shape. And then we'll just release that right arm and sweep it alongside the right ear. So you can find a little bit more of a longer stretch through the right side body, the breath moving into the right side ribs, into the spaces between the ribs. And then we'll press down through the feet. Inhale to reverse warrior. Find that same quality of length in the left side. Exhale, hands to the floor. Stepping back to plank. And then moving through your own path to find your way back home to downward dog. The end of your next exhale here, you can bend the knees, look forward, we'll step the feet or hop the feet up towards the hands. Inhaling halfway up, exhaling to sink back down, pressing into the feet, long spine. Inhale, come all the way up, arms reaching nice and tall. Exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. Maybe stepping the feet in nice and close. Again, coming up onto the balls of the feet. Just let your hands dangle by your sides, and then we'll hinge at the hips to reach the ribs forward. Again, bringing the torso parallel to the floor. Stay lifted up on the balls of your feet. Keep reaching back through your sits bones. See, maybe you can spread the sits bones a little bit wider. Inner line of the legs zipped right up, hugging in through the belly, feeling those muscles in the low back working to hold your balance, heart reaching forward, and then bending the knees, heels settle into the mat, sweeping the arms up alongside your ears. Again, finding that chairless shape. Maybe you can sit a little bit deeper, leaning your weight a little bit more towards the heel so it's really balanced across the sole of the foot. Inner line of the legs hugging the center, belly drawing in, the ribs lifting taller. And then we'll exhale, fold towards the floor, hands coming down as the legs begin to straighten. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, planting your hands, stepping or hopping back, your path to downward dog. Inhaling to reach the right leg up and back. Exhale the knee into the chest, leaning your weight into your hands. Inhale to reach up and back. Exhale the knee to the upper right arm, as high up as you're able. Inhaling to reach up and back. And we'll exhale the knee towards the upper left arm. This time threading your right leg between your left hand and foot. We're going to set the outer edge of the right foot to the floor, settle onto the inner edge of your left foot, and then reach your left arm up. I'm coming into a kind of side plank variation. Hips up nice and high. Take your left arm forward alongside your left ear and stretch long through your left side body. And then we'll exhale to bring the left hand back down to the floor. Tuck the left toes under, hug the right knee in towards your chest, and step your right foot forward towards your hands. Spinning that left heel down, left foot flat to the mat. Inhale, coming up warrior one. Exhaling to lean your weight into your right foot, moving into warrior three. Seeing if we can really lift through the inner line of the left leg. And feel how all of the muscles around the left leg might work to help you hold this shape. So the front of the leg is working to keep the left leg straight. The back of the leg, the inner line of the leg, working to keep the leg lifted. And especially feel some effort around the left glutes to keep that leg up, reaching your ribs forward, finding a hug in through the low belly to create space in the center body, the muscles of your back working to keep the ribs lifted. And then we'll slowly bend the right knee, moving into warrior two, the arms out, shoulder height. Straightening your right leg. Inhale to reach the right arm as far forward as you're able, and then exhaling the right arm down, left arm up, coming into triangle pose. Sending your right hip back, reaching your ribs forward, and roll your left side ribs open. So now finding some space along the inner line of your right leg, or a sense of stretch perhaps up towards the groin. You might still look for some effort in the legs. So the heels kind of hug together, which helps us find the pelvic floor so that we can root the spine in space. And then from there, maybe you're able to stretch your ribs a little bit more away from the hips, for more length in the sides of the waist. A tiny bit of a twist as you roll the left side ribs open, turn your heart more towards the light. And pressing down through the feet, inhaling to come back up to standing. We'll exhale to spin the right toes towards the left, so all 10 toes pointing towards the left. You can bring your hands to your hips. Inhale to lift the center of the chest. Exhaling to fold, bringing your hands down towards the floor. Inhale to come up onto your fingertips, reach the ribs forward. Exhale to scoop the belly in, folding a little bit deeper. You can bring your hands flat to the mat if that's available to you, maybe lining your hands up between your feet. The fingers, the toes, all pointing in the same direction. If you're able to find some bend in your elbows, you might start to look for something like chaturanga arms, so the elbows are aligned over the wrists. And then we can lean weight into the balls of the feet. Maybe you can also lean some weight into your fingerprints so that you're able to lengthen up more through the backs of the legs. So feeling that you're really breathing up the backs of the legs, lifting the sits bones, spreading the sits bones wide. As you exhale, you scoop the belly in, the ribs reach down, away from the hips, a little bit more length in the torso. And then you can just notice what the shoulders are doing here. We might look for a little bit of effort in lifting the shoulders away from the ears, so those muscles that hold the shoulder blades on the back can waken up a little bit. So we still have a comfortable spaciousness around the neck. And then we'll inhale to come back up onto the fingertips, reaching the ribs forward. Exhale to bring the hands to the hips. Pressing down through the feet, inhale to come up to standing. Turning your right toes forward, bending your right knee, arms out, warrior two. Inhale to reverse warrior, the right side body long. Exhale, hands windmill down to the floor, stepping back to plank. Your path again to downward dog. And then we'll inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale, knee into the center of the chest, leaning into your hands. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper left arm. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper right arm, and then reaching that left leg out to the right, rooting the outer edge of the foot. Dropping onto the inner edge of your right foot, reaching your right arm up to the ceiling, hips up high. See if you can really press down through the left hand to send your hips up into space. Right arm reaching alongside your right ear, stretching out through the whole right side body. Good. And then exhaling the right hand down. Tucking your right toes under, pull the left knee in towards you, step your left foot towards your hands. Right foot flat to the floor, arms up, warrior one. Good, exhaling to move into warrior three. So shifting your weight into your left foot, right leg floating up again. Really feel all of the ways that we can draw effort into this shape. So left leg shooting down into the floor, the right leg active on all sides so that we can keep the leg straight, so that we can lift the leg, feel the glutes working, the low back working, the ribs reaching away from the hips, a little bit of effort of the core. And then bending your left knee, slow step back, moving into warrior two, arms out shoulder height. And we'll straighten the left leg. Inhale to reach your left arm as far forward as you're able. Exhaling the left arm down, right arm up for triangle pose. And sending your hips back, reaching your ribs forward. Noticing what efforts you might draw into the legs to help you find a sense of activation in the pelvic floor, so the kind of magnetism between the heels. And then once we root the end of the spine in the pelvic floor, maybe you're able to stretch out longer through the torso, the belly lengthening out a little bit, sides of the waist lengthening out. Maybe you can roll your right side ribs open. There's this small sense of a twist. And pressing down through the feet, inhale to come back up. Exhale, bending your left knee. Don't do that. Straighten your left leg. Turn your left toes towards the right. And again, we'll just make sure the toes are all pointing in the same direction. Hands down behind your back this time. Inhale to lift the center of the chest. And then exhaling to fold, letting your arms start to settle away from your back. Same quality of leaning into the balls of your feet, breathing up the backs of your legs. We can use effort again in the front of the leg in order to get more straightness, more length in the backs of the legs. So your quads working, the kneecaps, the thighs lifting up towards the hip creases. We also roll the thigh bones slightly inwards to spread the sits bones outwards. And then the low belly draws in as you exhale, reaching your ribs down away from those lifted hips. To explore some more space in the shoulders, if you feel able, you might lift your shoulders away from your ears and then see if you feel like you can wrap your shoulders around towards the back of your ears and notice if that gives you more room to drop the arms away from the back. And really let the head go here. So the neck muscles are relaxed. There's no effort in holding your head onto your body. And then we'll press down through the feet. Inhale to come all the way back up to standing. And then moving into warrior two. Left toes forward, bending your left knee, arms out, shoulder height. We'll inhale to reverse warrior, the left side body long. Exhaling to windmill the hands down to the floor, stepping back to plank. Moving again through whatever path you like to arrive back to downward dog. So once more, we'll inhale to reach the right leg up and back. And exhale to draw the knee into the center of the chest. Belly hugs in, lift the thigh high. Inhale, reach up and back. Exhale the knee to the upper right arm, the shoulders moving forward. Inhale, reaching up and back. We'll exhale to bring the knee to the upper left arm. Again, reaching your right leg out to the left. Root the knife edge of the foot. Roll to the inner edge of your left foot. Reach your left arm up high. Press down through your right arm, right hand to get the hips up away from the floor. Left arm alongside your left ear. Good. And then we'll exhale to bring the left hand down. From here, keeping both legs straight as they are, see if you can just settle your right hip to the floor. So the legs are kind of in an L shape. And then we'll turn the chest towards the top edge of the mat. So it's a little bit of a twist. You can walk your hands out. Maybe you can come down onto your forearms. Maybe you're even able to come down onto your forehead. So it's kind of a little bit of a pigeon shape, but also a twist. And feel how the hips turn towards the left as your torso turns back towards your mat. I'm just enjoying any sensation of tug along the outer right thigh, the outer right hip. And this little bit of a squeezing out of the center body. And take steady, soothing breaths here. Good, and then you can slowly come back up onto your hands. From here, we're gonna sit the left hip down, so the toes will point up towards the ceiling as you drop both sits bones to the floor. So we're landing in a straddle shape. You're probably facing sort of towards the back corner of your mat. You might like to widen out the straddle a little bit more if it feels available to you. Sitting up nice and tall on the front edge of your sits bones. And then we'll just start to walk the hands forward so we can come into a forward fold here. And lots of activity in your legs. You really feel that the thighs are engaged, the quads are engaged to help invite more length, more straightness into the legs. Of course, if you need bend in the knees, that's perfectly acceptable. And also try and draw the inner lines of your thighs down towards the floor to spread the sits bones wide without turning the feet in, so the toes are still pointing straight up towards the ceiling. And we see if we can spread the sits bones to help change the angle of the hips a little bit so that we're able to more comfortably fold at the hip creases. And then look for as much length and breath and space in your low back as you can imagine. And then we'll slowly come back up. From here, I'm gonna bend the left knee and then fold your left foot in behind you, so towards your left hip. And you might root the top of the foot. You'll have to experiment a little bit with what feels comfortable for you here. So left knee bent with the foot tucked in towards the hip. So you can find a little bit of stretch or space across the left thigh. And then we'll place the right forearm either onto the right thigh or maybe towards the inside of your right thigh. Reach your left arm up to the ceiling. Start to lean back through that left side body. So a little bit of a sense of a twist. See if you can root your left hip here. So the left hip as heavy as the right. And then stretch your left arm alongside your left ear in the direction of your right leg. You might find that magically your right foot happens to be in the reach of your left hand. If it's not there, don't worry about it. And see if you can keep creating space in the left side body by rooting down through the left hip as you stretch out through your left hand. So it's extending in both directions. Lots of length in your right leg. You're leaning over to that right leg. Big full breaths here, and not losing the twist. So still turning your heart up so that the chest stays wide open. And then we'll inhale to come slowly back up, leaning into your right hip so that you can straighten that left leg out. We'll just root the inside of the left foot, continuing to turn your chest towards the top of your mat. Tuck your left toes under, press down through your hands, pick your right leg up and step back to a downward dog. And we'll do all of that on the other side. So we're inhaling to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale the knee into the center of the chest, leaning into your hands. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee to your upper left arm. Inhale, reaching up and back. Exhale, knee to the upper right arm, threading your left leg out to the your left leg out to the right, and then dropping the inner right foot, coming once more into this kind of side plank shape, pressing down through your left hand, lift your hips high, reach your right arm up, reach your right arm alongside your right ear, stretching out through the right side body, and then exhale the right hand down. And from here, letting your left hip sink down to the floor. So the leg's still in this kind of L shape, and turning your chest towards the top edge of your mat. You can start to ease down onto your forearms, or maybe all the way down onto your chest. And finding the stretch along the outer line of your left leg, but also this little bit of an experience of a twist. And especially continue to breathe space into your low back. The more we can stretch the ribs away from the hips, the more we find the sensation in the outer left leg, and the more we make space for the twist. And you can just notice how your breath might comb through all of those sensations. And the power of the breath to loosen, untangle, resolve whatever it is that it encounters. And just taking a few more nourishing breaths here. And then we'll slowly start to walk the hands back in, and then sitting your right hip down as you turn your toes up towards the ceiling, so we can come back into this straddle shape now towards kind of the back left corner of your mat. You might spread your legs a little bit wider if that feels comfortable for you. And then seeing again if we can tilt the weight forward to the front edge of the sits bones, and we'll just walk the hands out to come into a comfortable straddle fold here. I guess comfortable is always relative. So this might not be your favorite shape, but see if you can breathe into it in a way that makes it feel like less of a fight with yourself. And if you're really having trouble tilting forward in the hips, then sitting on some support can be quite useful, even just a little bit of an edge of a blanket or something to get the hips up higher. Might help you to find some more of that length and freedom in your low back that you're wishing for. Wherever you've ended up, you can just really steady, smooth, helpful breaths, so that you can navigate whatever it is that you're feeling. Yeah, and then we'll slowly come back up to a seat. So now folding the right leg in so that the heel comes in behind you. And again, you might find that rooting the top of the foot is most comfortable. See if we can settle the right hip. And then we'll lean the left elbow towards the left thigh, or bring the left arm down towards the inside of the left leg. And reaching your right arm up so that you can open the chest wide. And then stretching your right arm alongside your right ear so that maybe you're reaching in the direction of your left foot. Maybe even you're happening to find that left foot in space. If it's not there, then we just don't worry about it. The right hip still settling down as you stretch out through your right arm so that we lengthen the right side body in both directions. And then rather than turning your chest in towards the floor, see if you can keep spinning it open. Wide experience across the chest. And a few more steady breaths here. Lengthening into your left leg as much as you're able. And then we'll inhale to come back up, straightening out the right leg. Seeing if you can spin back towards the top edge of your mat so that we can root the hands, tuck the right toes under, pick up the hips, and step the left foot back to downward dog. And then we'll just take a moment here. You can walk the dog if you like, or any movements that help you to loosen up the legs, the hips, find a quality of balance or evenness in both sides. And then exhaling to bring your knees down to your mat, crossing your ankles, rolling over your feet. And from here, we're just going to find our way all the way down onto the back. So you're going to arrive with the soles of the feet to the floor, the knees bent, the feet about hip width apart, heels in towards your sits bones, arms by your sides. And then coming up into a bridge pose, we'll press down through the feet, lift the hips, interlace the fingers underneath you. You can snuggle your shoulder blades in close. So in this shape, really feeling how the shoulder blades move in towards each other so that we can widen the spot where the upper arm bone connects into the torso. Keep pressing down through your feet, pressing down through your arms to lift your hips up high, flushing your breath through your chest, your belly, the hip creases, the tops of the thighs, so the whole front body getting lots of space. And then we'll exhale to sit the hips back down, releasing your hands, letting the hips drop heavy to the floor. For a moment here, wiggling your feet out so that you can settle your knees in towards each other. And just take a moment in this neutral shape to allow the spine to relax into its natural curved form. And then we'll draw the knees in towards the chest. A little roundness in the back. From here, you can rock gently side to side, just massaging the back against the floor. Maybe even like to take your hands to the tops of your knees and keep rocking, but let the movement be a little bit more fluid so that you can massage the outer hips against the floor. You can kind of feel whatever last little bit of stickiness, any residue that you need to sweep out of your body. Exploring space with your knees and this gentle rocking. Good. And then we'll release the legs and find Shavasana. So you take the legs straight out on the mat, or again, have your knees bent if that's what works best for you. Allowing your arms to settle by your sides. Rolling your thumbs outwards so the inner arms are relaxed. Seeing if you can soften through the inner lines of the legs, soften the belly, relax the chest so your breath becomes its most natural. Relax the throat, and soften the face, soften the point between your eyes. So really letting go of your midline, feeling that the midline might spill outwards or that your body might spill away from the midline. So that you become less solid, more diffuse. That maybe the boundaries of your skin become more porous and you're able to pour out into the space around you. Just a short chance to let go of your singular identity, your attachment to who you think you are or who you think you're supposed to be. You can let go of all of the gripping that we do in this life, or all of the gripping that we do to this life. And then you can again slowly come back towards yourself. Become aware of the solid shape of your body, the boundary of your skin, and start to fill that space with conscious breath. Look for little movements in your fingers, in your toes. And then inhaling to reach your arms up alongside your ears. Take a nice long full stretch. And exhale to roll onto your right side. Maybe a moment in this fetal shape, so a little bit of rounding in your spine, a bend in the knees. The shape of the beginning of life, the first shape that we know as humans. And then slowly finding your way up to a comfortable seat. So you can come to a cross-legged position or whatever works for you, keeping the eyes closed, hands to your knees or in your lap. And let the hips be heavy, let the shoulders be soft. You can see if you can really set the shoulder girdle comfortably on the body. You can think of it as like a saddle on a horse. The shape of your collarbones and your shoulder blades sit really comfortably on your trunk. And the head growing up out of the spine. And notice that there's a tiny bit of effort in holding ourselves up here. But if the shape is easeful, if the hips are open enough, if the spine and the shoulders are set up in the right kind of stacking, then we need only the tiniest bit of effort. Just the smallest bit of alertness to keep ourselves in this upright shape and to be really comfortable here. Just take a few more moments to explore how you feel now, how your breath moves in your body. Notice if you've discovered anything or changed anything in your internal landscape along the way. And then we'll bring the hands together at the center of the chest and thank yourself for your practice. And thank you for joining me. Namaste. Great. So, I hope that you're out there somewhere on Facebook, on YouTube, and it's not the same as being here with you in person, and we miss it terribly. But leave us a message if you want to say hi. It's always nice to feel that there's a little bit of some kind of community happening. And we hope that we'll see you sometime soon-ish in real life.